Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, I have some bonus content for you guys. The bonus content we'll be covering today will be in the sport of wrestling inside the WWE world. In today's bonus segment, I'll be sharing my list of WWE superstars that should have been a world champion at some particular point of their WWE career. So I can sit here all day, all night with you guys with the list of wrestlers I do believe should have been a world champion in the WWE, whether it was their first and second stint, any time in the company. But I have a total of 5 wrestlers that should have been a world champion on my list today. Starting off with wrestler number 1, this one really should have happened. It was Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy should have been a world champion at some point in the WWE, really in his beginning years with the company. And it felt like Mr. Kennedy was a megastar. He had the aura from the ring entrance where he held the microphone, introduced himself from Green Bay, Wisconsin, yelled Mr. Kennedy from the top of his lungs, and then not once but twice basically during his entrance. But he was really pushed as a young bona fide star, one of the fastest rising stars in SmackDown history back in the early 2000s when he was beating world champions of Booker T, Eddie Guerrero, and The Undertaker in his first year in the WWE. So Mr. Kennedy went on to win the United States Championship, of course, and became Mr. Money in the Bank back at WrestleMania 23 when he won the ladder match that had CM Punk, Booker T, Edge, Randy Orton, the Hardy Boys, etc. But he never was able to become world champion. If you guys actually remember, he was supposed to cash in on The Undertaker, become the World Heavyweight Champion when The Undertaker was going through that arm injury back in 2007. But Mr. Kennedy's own injuries eventually caught up to him. Edge took his spot, and the rest is history, with Edge being the ultimate opportunist, cashing in on The Undertaker back in 2007. But with the injuries, Mr. Kennedy was never really able to get back to that form of a main event star, and we know the history and the fallout that him and Randy Orton had, which escalated to him leaving the company in 2009 and going to TNA and accomplishing things like becoming a world champion, something he should have did in the WWE years ago. It's sad that he never became a true main event star that he was supposed to become with the format and the booking that Vince McMahon gave to him early on. Very unfortunate that never happened to Mr. Kennedy. Now, again, this is one of the fastest rising stars in SmackDown at the time. Montel Vontavious Porter, MVP. One of the fastest rising stars in SmackDown history, was one of the longest reigning United States champions in WWE history. I mean, the man was a great heel that the SmackDown roster had to offer from 2006 to 2008. During MVP's United States Championship reign, he took the title from Chris Benoit. That was a big deal. He defeated wrestlers like the Nature Boy Ric Flair, Matt Hardy, Rey Mysterio, Batista, and others during this United States Championship reign, and also held one half of the WWE Tag Team titles during this reign, being a double champion with Matt Hardy. And it's crazy that MVP was one of the biggest heels that SmackDown had to offer in 2007. He didn't get a chance to become world champion when Edge had to vacate the title due to an injury that sidelined him for months. But you put the title on a wrestler like Great Khali that really only had the size and the strength, really had no aura, and had no mic skills, had no in-ring ability. But you put the title on Great Khali, but not a bona fide star like MVP that you've been building for years, becoming one of the fastest rising stars in SmackDown history. Very unfortunate. And I know he said I should throw that in there for someone that might say that also. He was on a podcast with Edge and Christian years ago and said because of his legal troubles is the reason why the WWE never officially pulled the trigger on him to become a world champion. Because of his criminal record, he couldn't go overseas and represent the company during the WWE live events and live tours. That could be a reason, but MVP should have been a world champion. Now, next wrestler on my list is Wade Barrett. Wade Barrett, if we're talking facts and being realistic, if he wasn't a commentator for WWE today, I think he would have been forgotten about a long time ago, respectfully. But Wade Barrett's in-ring abilities were really good in the early 2010s, and he was a good heel. The man should have been a world champion. And if the fact that when he was brought in from NXT and to Nexus, when on the main roster, forming Nexus could have been one of the greatest factions in WWE history. Hands down, the trajectory of what they had was sky high. I mean, the whole group as a whole, talent level of Justin Gabriel, Heath Slater, Ryback, David Otunga, several others that could have been bona fide stars, but their momentum was derailed in the summer of 2010 when they were feuding with John Cena. We all know the multi-tag match of Nexus versus Team Cena, with John Cena not wanting to put over the Nexus, and that really hurt the momentum of the group. Because can you imagine if the Nexus did win that tag team match, well, it could have went on to Wade Barrett? He would have had the WWE title in the palm of his hands by the end of 2010. But that didn't happen, and he lost the feud overall to John Cena. And after that feud with John Cena, he fell off the map. Really wasn't a main event star. Got kicked out of his own faction with the Nexus by CM Punk. Created the Core, which was a knockoff Walmart version of the Nexus. And it didn't play out for him to be a world champion. Now, he became a multiple-time Intercontinental champion, but due to injuries, I believe in 2016 was the end of Wade Barrett's career in the ring, and we never seen him in the ring since. So it's very unfortunate that Wade Barrett never became a world champion in the WWE. Next wrestler, Owen Hart. Owen Hart, just like his brother Bret Hart, was such a good technical wrestler. And the fact that Owen Hart had one of the greatest opening matches in WrestleMania history when he fought his brother Bret Hart at WrestleMania 10 still sits in my heart as one of the greatest opening matches in a WWE pay-per-views event, in WWE history for pay-per-view events. Now, the craziest thing about Owen Hart is Owen Hart won every title that there was offered to him at the time when he was alive, and the company was the WWF at the time. He won the Intercontinental Championship. He won the European Championship. He was one half of the World Tag Team Champions. He accomplished everything but winning that WWF title. And his passing was very unfortunate years and years ago of that tragic accident. But I just think that Owen Hart, if he was actually given a chance, he could have been a really good WWF champion for the time. It didn't have to be a long reign. Could have been a good 2 to 3 month title reign. I think he would have did a good job with the title if the opportunity was presented to him back in the day. Now, last wrestler on my list is the late great Scott Hall. Hey yo, Scott Hall, man, should have been a world champion. He, from head to toe, you looked at him, his height, his size, his physique. He looked like he had everything that you needed to be a world champion in wrestling. And he had the mic skills to do it. I think the only reason why he was never a world champion was because he was beside the likes of Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash and the NWO. And there's nothing wrong with that because the NWO is one of the greatest wrestling factions in wrestling history. But I think that's what held him back from being a world champion, being alongside Hollywood Hulk Hogan, who was a megastar in WCW. Like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were themselves, but Hulk Hogan was the box office attraction in the group. But I just feel like he was deserving at least of one WCW title reign. Not to throw shots or anybody, but an example of this, Scott Hall was more deserving of being a WCW world champion than someone like Jeff Jarrett. All due respect. But Scott Hall, in his time with the WWE, was an Intercontinental champion. We can never forget his classic WrestleMania 10 ladder match, that Intercontinental Championship unification ladder match with the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, and his match at SummerSlam 1995 with Shawn Michaels. I think those were some really defining moments of Scott Hall's career. It would have been really nice to see the big man with a world title at some point of his wrestling career. But those are my 5 wrestlers that I do believe should have been a world champion at some point in their wrestling careers. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.